Let's talk at the issue at the very heart of this, that both of these case studies, both of these people are saying there is an unseen issue, which is what they're perceived as ignored by government. What's your reaction to that?
There is an issue. It's not ignored by government. Both of those cases were very troubling, stimulating, and also mean that we've got to make sure that they know what they can do and get. Also to thank people like the Foodbank and Housing Matters and GRI and the Salvation Army, and behind them the wider Manx public for being so generous volunteering and also with donations, but most importantly professionalising themselves with government's help to be able to make sure that that people like that in the trauma that they're in, the personal trauma, get signposted to the right facilities.
Well, in both these scenarios, they have been signposted to the food bank. They've both been in touch with Housing Matters. I'm sure there's other people, other places in government too. Mm-hmm. Is the system clear enough? Because in both examples, it seems to be that people might not be in these positions aware of what rights they have, what options are out there.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's start with Social Security and benefits. Well, normally you don't qualify for benefits unless you meet certain rules, and they are clear. You can go down the route of appealing a decision of Social Security to a tribunal, but that's not appropriate in this case. Unfortunately, the system has got built into it a degree of flexibility in terms of emergency need. So you've hit the nail on the head. What we need to make sure is that those people know what they can do and who they can talk with, and they're not likely to themselves, so therefore it's absolutely vital that Foodbank, GRI, Housing Matters, Salvation Army help them get involved with the people. Also MHKs to an extent. It's not right. Government can't get into everybody's lives. There are 85,000 of us on the island. Not every MHK can always get inside and help people individually, but there are professionals out there and there are wonderful charities with volunteers out there. And what we need to do is, in both those cases, we need to make sure that social services are helping as they should do, and that Social Security is being applied as it should do. And also, aren't we lucky to have the volunteers and the money behind all of those charities that government supplements however we can, to be flexible, to be agile, and to make sure that communication is taking place so that people can work for themselves to get better, just as both ladies said.
Undoubtedly, there was gratitude in both of those examples, but is it government's line that, thank goodness, we have charities to step in, or shouldn't government be much more proactive than that?
No, we are very, very proactive. So, in terms of Social Security, we have tried to help in the last 3 years, and beyond that probably as well, the people who need Social Security most. So disability benefits, child benefits have gone up more than the average. In terms of social services, it is quite hard to get assistance, but we've tried to link together. Government gives money to employ people at Housing Matters and has done for 10 years. We have worked with GRI on the emergency shelter through a couple of departments of government to help us get inside the lives of the difficult lives of people who are struggling, to make sure that they're there to help them bring into our system. Government spends millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions even in some senses on these sorts of issues, because we have social security systems, social policies, housing policies. It's there to help, but there are rules behind it. So I think in one of those cases it sounded like there was separation and personal breakup. In another one it sounded like it got between the generations. I think sometimes there are issues about not being entitled to benefits in the Isle of Man because we haven't been on the Isle of Man for 2 years or 5 years or 10 years or whatever it is. There is so much complexity behind each of these cases, and it's absolutely wonderful that people help themselves so much, as we saw from those interviews, firstly. Secondly, it's wonderful that the Isle of Man community volunteers and gives so generously to those well-organised charities that are getting better organised all the time, and it's for government to recognise the issue, to acknowledge the issue, and to do something about it in the way that we can, which is to make sure social security is flexible but also sufficient, to make sure social policy is as joined up as it should be between social workers and social security and housing policy. Constant struggle. There will always be poverty, there will always be tragedy in life, but what we can do together is to try and minimise the impact.
Well, is it too complex then? I mean, we're talking about if you don't don't qualify for benefits, so haven't been on the island, for example, for 2 years yet, but you do qualify to go to the food bank because you haven't got enough to purely feed your children.
Yep.
You're not allowed to get free school dinners. Shouldn't that be a simple case that if you can't afford food, you should have free school dinners?
Well, two ways to answer. The first one is that once you qualify for a benefit, you will get free school meals. It's automatic, and there is flexibility in the benefit system, so therefore we need signposting. The second point is a very good one that you make. So there are certain moments in the year, like the summer holidays, where it could be that we need to work with schools and to work with third sector bodies to run, children's clubs, including meal and activity, to get through difficult times like the summer holidays, and that's something that we will take action on next year, depending on whether this year's results are the same as they were last year or different, and also building on some experiments we've already had in various places around the island. So, government has got lots of money, has to operate by rules. That's what taxpayers would expect when they pay taxes. Charities work on volunteers and the generosity of the Manx public, and they've got agility that we can't have because we'd be accused of bending our own rules. We've got to work together symbiotically, and I hope that that's how the future of charities and government is. It's not about charities being abused to knock government all the time. It's about working together to get the best out of both of what we've got.
Could government be talking more, though, to charities, have more regular conversations?
Well, we do. In fact, we have regular conversations with all of the ones that I've mentioned. They've all been into my office and sat there. I've been into their offices. Well, Gry, I've been talking to regularly since they've been doing their shelter quite recently. Had a meeting with them. Foodbank, Salvation Army, Housing Matters and Gry have got their own working group, which we've encouraged, and they've had a meeting in the last few days, and they will be presenting back to us a combined action plan for coming years. So, we can do everything we can to support charities, but they're not working for us. We do give grants to a number of them to help, but it's important to me that charities are running their own affairs just as important. I'm sure it's important to them.